just a thought. It's my opinion. It's just a thought. It's just a thought. Get out your feelings. It's just a thought. It's just a thought. It's my opinion. It's just a thought. It's just a thought. Get out your feelings.
What's going on, everybody? It's your girl, Sharí Nycole. Welcome to another episode of Just a Thought with Sharí Nycole. And I always get excited when I have royalty anywhere near me, whether in the building or on the Zoom. And today I have the honor and the pleasure of chatting with someone I've been a huge fan of for a very long time, Donald Lawrence. He's a gold and platinum GRAMMY Award-winning recording artist, producer, songwriter, music director, and choir master. And he has carved out hits for people that we're going to get into in a little bit. Just anybody you can pretty much think of, whether it's gospel, R&B, hip-hop, rhythm and blues, he does it all. And so without further ado, he's here to talk about a new album he's doing, what he's done and put together with Twinkie Clark, amongst other the projects that he's working on. I'm very, very excited that I got the chance to speak with him. And let me not belabor this any longer because I only got him for a few minutes. But without further ado, Mr. Donald Lawrence, thank you so much for the time.
Oh, thank you for having me. I appreciate it so much.
Yeah, so normally I don't normally start with the albums first. I typically kind of ease my way into that, but I am just so always impressed with you. But I'm just so impressed with how you arranged this particular album with Twinkie Clark. I want to touch on this first because I think it's going to lead us to some other concepts. So, I mean, I know that you've been working with the Clark sisters for decades. For you, why was this project something that was a must do? And with that being said as well, how do you challenge yourself in working with them to bring the bar even higher? Because I don't know how does everything sound better than the last one? In other words,
I don't know. I'm just a fan of the Clark sisters. I mean, there are a few groups and people that I'm a fan of, but definitely the Clark sisters. I've always been a fan of Twinkies. And for me to go back and take an old album, reimagine it, and do it all the way from scratch again and do it, it just was something that challenged me as producer, challenged me as an artist, and challenged my artistic expression. So, I mean, all the challenges, I just sometimes like to, put myself up for it and see if I can accomplish it. And I'm proud of this project. So I'm usually low key, but this is one project I am proud of. I really think it came together well. It was one of my favorite bodies of work from Twinkie, period. So to be able to redo it, I'm really, really proud of it.
Well, you should be proud. And I think it speaks to your genius to be able to take different sounds and integrate them into an album and there still be cohesion. I mean, in listening to this, you got your old school gospel, but then you got a hip hop flair in there. You got some R&B in there. You're bringing in J Moss and Kiera Sheard and PJ Morton. I mean, so many different voices from so many different levels of experience. What was it like for you kind of putting this beautiful cuisine of sound together? And how do you create that cohesion despite kind of having people that are coming from these different vocal and genre type backgrounds?
Well, you know what? I think of the full story, and I think of each song as a story within itself. So I let the song within itself dictate who the cast should be. And then I think when you do that, you have like 8 episodes with different cast members, but it's all still talking about the same story, power. So I kind of approached it like that. And someone told me earlier today that this wasn't a tribute album, it was a dissertation. So I guess as you kind of, that might be quite right. It might be put together a little bit like a dissertation as well. Like I said, this album originally came out in 1981. And I was obsessed with it. I used to play it all the time, to the point to where I knew so many of the nuances, especially the specific ones, that when it came to redo them, I knew exactly what to do. So yeah, it's one of those things that I say it was art. It's just art, living art, living art, living art,
Yeah, I think sometimes people take like genius, and I'm using that. I'm not using it loosely with you. I don't use it with everyone, but I think sometimes we take it for granted because it's just, in a way kind of freely given to us when you put bodies of work together. But I am interested in knowing, what is your process like? Like, how much time are you spending, in the word before you kind of get to a place where you're like, hey, I can come out with this record, or I can write this record, or in prayer. I think sometimes we don't understand that there's a process that happens before, somebody goes into the studio and puts a song together. So what is the extensiveness of how you prepare to even put these albums together or write these songs or direct these massive, massive choirs?
But you know what? It's what's in the heart reaches the heart. I think it starts in the heart. So I think sometimes you're inspired to do something from in the heart. I also say this too. and this is a term I use a lot. There is a moment where you go in spirit and you come back inspired. That's where the word comes from. To be in spirit is to return inspired. There was some place in the last 4 or 5 years where I went in spirit. I was inspired to do this particular record. And that's why it feels the way it feels, and it feels honest. I think that when we allow the spirit to lead us for whatever project we're doing, and you just honestly do it, I think that's when it touches everybody, when you least expect it and where you least expect it.
So you mentioned a little bit earlier, how much you love working with the Clark sisters and how much you enjoyed that challenge. What part of you as a creative does working with them specifically challenge, and why?
Well, I would say, let me just say this. This is going to be funny. First of all, the biggest challenge with the Clark sisters is getting them all in the same room at one time. Let me tell you something. Taken from someone who really knows, that is probably the biggest challenge, to get all of them that's an accomplishment within itself, to get all 4 of them in the same room at the same time. Oh man, because they have so many moving schedules. Yeah. And when you get them there, the magic definitely happens. But getting them there, that's the one challenge. Now, when you get to Clark sisters, of course, luckily for me, I know their voices. I know how to put them together. So it's not as challenging for me to get them to sing because I just know them. Like, I'm a real fan. And I think the biggest challenge is really just their schedule, getting them in the same room. You get past that, you're good to go. It's going to be on from then on.
You spoke a little bit about just a moment ago about, the inspiration piece to what you do. I'm looking at music now, whether it be gospel, whether it be other genres, and kind of how things have changed. I mean, we're talking sometimes year to year, sounds are changing. Oh, yeah. For you, how much do you value relevance over just being able to, again, exude the gift that God has given you and continue to just push out the music, sometimes regardless of what we may be hearing from these other genres from year to year?
I think that art is timeless. Timeless is always relevant. So I think when you really find something that's timeless, whether it's a newer sound or older sound, it just is. So I don't approach music based on relevance. I approach it based on art, and art being timeless. And I think that that's what will allow most creatives to always do something that somebody loves, or they hear something they didn't know they wanted to hear. I always say sometimes you can give people something they didn't even know they needed. And that's what I think art is. And I think that when you stifle art, you take away something we may not know that we needed.
How do you measure success? And I asked you because, I can read down a laundry list of your accolades. You have been a voice in music for as long as I've been alive. So, I can only imagine with every award, obviously there's gratefulness, but because you're so intentional with serving, because you're so intentional with putting together these timeless pieces, do you ever sit back and kind of bask in or sit with the success that you've garnered over the last several decades?
You know what? I think people like me don't do that. I think we do something that we love, then we were honest about it, then we move on to the next. I don't know that we sit and do that. Now, sometimes maybe we should, because people like me, it's never enough. It's never good enough. It's on to the next. And then sometimes when you are that way, I think you step outside of gratitude. So I'm learning now to take some moments to just be grateful of the things that you've done. Don't be so hard on yourself about, no, it's got to be here. It's got to be here. But most people, I think, creatives like myself, we're always pushing ourselves. And sometimes we don't take a minute to just breathe and enjoy what we've done, Yeah. So for me, it's kind of a back and forth.
With that said, how do you manage, or how have you been able to manage your mental health specifically as you've moved through this industry and with what you just said in mind?
Oh, wow. I definitely think having strong friends around me, strong family around me, but most importantly, I think the quiet time does it for me. I really do spend a lot of quiet time, and I tell people there's strength in quiet. It really is. You're able to kind of balance yourself and stabilize yourself and think things through so that you don't react too crazily really fast, or so I think the quiet time really, really does it for me. That's my stability, to really spend time alone. And when you spend time alone, you really do find yourself, but you also find God, and it centers you a lot. And I just think that I tell everybody there's strength in being quiet. An ocean is very powerful, but it can also be very quiet sometimes.
Would you say you're an introvert, Donald? Would you say you're an introvert?
200%. I'm 200% an introvert. I know how to come out and be on stage and deal with the public and talk to everybody, smile at, but I am 200% an introvert.
So as you're sitting here, sitting back in your introverted self, and you're looking at, where we sit in our society, what our needs are, especially as a Black community, what's happening in music. What are some of the things that stick out to you? And they could be glows or grows, things that you're really sitting with right now, thinking about, praying about, hoping for, things of that sort.
I'm surprised of how much information people put on social media. I guess because I'm such an introvert, just some things I just think we don't need to know. Like, I mean, I don't know what happened to people's personal privacy. Yeah. Maybe it's liberating for some people. I don't know. Some people just want to do it just because they want you to know. I'm not really sure, but sometimes I don't know if that strengthens you or weakens you. It's as much as you can say, I'm living my truth, or I want to be honest about everything. I'm not really sure that people are ready for your truth or your whatever that is. I think that I just don't think that people should know everything about everybody. Some of the things that I think people let into their household, their families. I just don't. Me personally, I just don't think that it should be posted on social media. I'm just surprised when I see some things. I'm like, wow, you and your child went through that and you posted it on social media. Like, these people don't know you like that. They don't love you like that. This is just gonna give them something else to talk about. So maybe for me, I look at social media as everybody finally got their own television channel and they all want to be stars. So that's the way they get people to watch their network or their station. And I guess it just wouldn't be me. I wouldn't do that.
What would you say to someone? And I know, again, we're in a different time, but what would be your advice to someone who says, "Hey, Donald, I know that, I have this gift. Like I want to be in the industry." And again, I think we're in a time now where everybody thinks that things happen like snap of a finger. I'm famous now. I got my record out. I'm doing my thing. What can you say to people, young people in particular, who do have desires to be in this industry, whether it's in gospel or other genres, about the beauty and the power in steadfast and steady elevation versus this instant gratification, shoot up kind of mode of movement that we're seeing a little bit in, not even a little bit, a lot in our industry?
Oh, I think the slow incline is the best. You learn your instrument, you learn the business, you learn your tempo, you learn your pace. I've seen people who become famous via social media, but when they get out in a live audience, they just kind of crash because they haven't had the time to learn rooms, to learn how to take a 15,000 person room and make it feel like one person to you. We don't live in a time where people sing in the choir, and the choir was really what I call a non-accredited conservatory.
I miss choirs, Donald. What happened?
It trained the best singers in the world. I mean, I don't know why people broke them up. It gave people the best training. It gave people an understanding of how to understand an audience. So I think that this quick climb gets you there and you're famous. But when you have to step out and perform, a lot of people, they kind of crash because they haven't worked their way there yet. Singing at home on a camera like this is not the same as being out there on that stage and trying to fill up a massive room. There's a big difference.
Is there one moment in your life, in your career in particular, where you can say, if I would have turned the other way, I wouldn't be here right now?
Oh man, I'm pretty sure there's a couple of moments that I probably would say that. I think that but I don't know where I would have been, to tell you the truth, because there was definitely a moment in my career before I really did the choir that I probably had the opportunity to be more of an urban producer and just do urban music. I took a pass on that because I didn't feel like it was where I had lived. I really grew up in church, and I feel like music shows up honest when you've lived the music you've created. And even though I had some urban music experience, because I definitely, my biggest professional start was on urban R&B scene, I knew I was a church kid growing up, so I didn't know that I would be able to do where I would be able to deliver it well. I just didn't know if it would feel honest. So I just chose to do what I knew, you know. So I think that had I went the other way, it may have worked and it may have not worked. You know, I'm glad I chose the path that I chose.
Is there a piece of experience or a skill set that you garnered from moving in that urban, you know, space for a minute that still anchors you in your career today?
All of it. Learning to produce. I didn't even know I wanted to be a producer before I worked with Stephanie Mills. And what brought the producer out of me was the fact that I had to make her live show sound like her albums. And I would go into the studio and study all the producer's tracks so I could duplicate it on stage. Then one day just clicked and said, oh, this is producing. And that woke up in me. The approach to beats and everything, that definitely was inspired by like Teddy Riley and all the guys that was starting to make music back then. So all of that you hear kind of in my music is from those walks. I just feel like I was meant to go there to learn and to come back and deliver gospel and inspirational music based on that formula. That's really who I feel like I was. So definitely everything that I learned there, I still use to this day.
Yeah, with that experience in mind, what is the next iteration of your creativity? What could that possibly look like? What does that possibly look like for you?
You know what I hope. I really love, as much as people would think I listen to music all the time, I watch television all the time. I absolutely love series. I'm a big fantasy lover too. So I have probably some treatments of that people will probably think is, wow, I would never thought you would do that. But I've got some series treatments. Like one is a fantasy, one is a drama. So I've been playing around with creating television because I'm a theater guy at heart too. So between theater and TV really is something that I really want to do. I ain't even going to say film as much, at least not yet, but definitely I'm a series guy. I love a story that keeps us in it for like 11 to 8 hours, you know, like that kind of thing. So I'm hoping that I get some opportunities with some television for real.
Yeah.
And I mean that not necessarily as an actor as much as I mean as a creative.
I love that. Okay. Well, so what series are you watching? Now I got to ask you, what are you into right now?
I watch everything. I can't wait for the Gilded Age to come back out. It comes back out. Season 2 starts like I think in a couple of weeks. I love comedies. I love that Frasier's got a new show that's coming back out. I love if you name that, I'll probably say, oh yeah, I watched that. I watch everything. I watch it for entertainment. Then sometimes I watch it for the value of the writing too. I really like great writing. I love and people will say, oh really, you like that? But I know the writer and the creator, the showrunner. I love the Miss Pat show. It makes me laugh because it reminds me of people in Gastonia, North Carolina. I know it's a lot of profanity on that show, but the people that I grew up around cursed just like that. It's very honest, and not necessarily in my home as much as in my community. Yeah. So it reminds me of some people that I knew as a kid. So I laughed at that show quite a bit. Average Joe, I watched.
Great show.
I really watch. I like great writing. So if it's really good writing, I'm going to kind of find my way in it. You know.
I love it. I'm gonna switch gears a little bit. I'm really big on networking. I think it's something that is a bit of a lost art these days in terms of how people should go about it. I'm sure people pull and tug on you all the time. How do you determine who you're going to mentor and who you may just give a word to and just pass them possibly on to somebody else that can help them in a different capacity? Like, how do you, especially as an introverted person, especially as a creative, how do you gauge who you can bring into your space in a mentorship capacity and who you cannot?
That's a great question. I don't think that I gauge it. I think that alignment puts it there. If everybody that I've really connected with is not been can you help me? It's always a certain kind of divine alignment happened. And before I knew it, we were working together. So whether it's Sir the Baptist, whether it was Dwayne Woods, everybody that I think that I met and we worked close like that, it's been more aligned and not can you do kind of that? So I think I've just allowed that kind of thing to organically take place and not push it one way or the other.
Yeah. Speaking of organically taking place, what do you think we're missing in music? And this is an overall music question. What's missing? And what's actually working? What do you enjoy that's moving forward in the scope of music right now?
I like when music is honest and it's not monolithic. I think we're missing the ability, and I ain't gonna say that the talent is definitely there.
Mhm.
I think that people want number one so fast that they listen to what's number one, they try to recreate it. People don't really try to just be their on their own authentic self. The era that I grew up listening to, could be 10 number ones, but everybody was totally different. I miss that in music. I miss that when I hear you, I know exactly who you are. I knew you would know Michael and you would know Prince. You would know Shaka and you would know Aretha.
Yeah.
You know Patty, you would know Gladys, and all of them hit. I miss that. Not saying that it's always like that now, but it can be that way to the point to where you get the songs mixed up. And
Yeah.
and I miss that. I wish, and I don't think it's the artist as much as it's sometimes the industry is making them be that way. I really wish the industry would take the brakes off and allow artistic people just to be artistic.
I love that. So, speaking of letting people be artistic, the most challenging studio session you've ever had,
Oh,
and with who?
what
The
is
most challenging
studio session I've ever had? I don't know.
Because you've been in there with just about everybody. So I'm
And
just curious.
I think that, I mean, not that all of them have been like incredible. I don't think I've ever really had one I can say is challenging. I mean, that's not saying that all of them has just been a knockout. I just think that I'm always so prepared based on the artist that I know exactly how to get what I need to get out of them. Maybe that's because I learned really early on to know the artist before you get in there with them, really understand that when an artist comes into the studio, it's almost like they're stripping bare in front of you. So you have to really understand how to kind of get the best out of them and make them feel comfortable with it. So I can't really remember I'm trying to think, did I ever have a really rough session with somebody that just didn't work and we just said no thanks after that? I can't remember ever having that.
I think that's a great thing.
It is, I'm trying to think now. I might hang up with you and go, "Oh," but at this point, I can't remember one session that I can think that was we just had to end it. It just was not going to work.
Yeah. So what's a tool that you use in your toolbox? And maybe again, this is a natural subconscious thing for you that allows the artist to have the space to be creative and to function in their gift fully, but also that doesn't compromise the vision that you also have for the record and or the album.
Yeah, you have great questions. You have
Thanks.
a really great question. I think that, like I said, understanding the artist, I always said this from a spiritual perspective. The producer chases the spirit of the artist, and you find and you create this relationship in spirit, and then that spirit trusts you. So I think the whole thing is to get them to trust you, to know that you want their best. And when they feel that way, they will let you see their flaws and the greatness in them. And I think that's the whole thing, because an artist doesn't want you to see their flaws. When they get to a place they feel like you got them and they trust you, they will let you see their flaws, whatever, and they know that you're going to make sure that they're great. I try to establish that kind of relationship with everybody I work in the studio with, that they know when this is finished, you're going to be proud of it and I'm going to be proud of it. And I think that's what helps.
You talk about flaws. What's the biggest piece of constructive criticism, or one of the bigger pieces of constructive criticism you've received along the course of your career that level set you in a way that you still employ to this day?
When I first started, I was told that I was too perfect. I wanted everything too perfect. And I understand that. I learned it later, not many years later, but I learned what they meant by that. I wanted everything to be so perfect, but sometimes when you do it like that, you lose the heart of stuff. There's sometimes a crackly note just got some emotion in it that when you fix it, it leaves. So I learned many, many years ago that music is not what we hear, it's what we feel. So sometimes the way you hear it, if you hear it perfectly, you've lost all the feeling from it. So the one thing that I always remind myself and people that I work with, music is about the way it feels. People think they like what they hear. They like what they feel.
Yeah. What I feel when I hear your music, whether it's something that you're doing, individually or with Tri-City Singers or with the Clark Sisters, there's this air of strength in the simplicity of what you're saying. especially when it's scripturally based. I don't know, and you can tell me if there's real intention behind really making things plain for people, or is this something that just kind of organically happens and just become part of you as an artist and as a writer and as a producer? Because any record I hear from you, I totally get it. I'm not sitting there like, I wonder what they were talking about right there. I like the sound of it, but I'm really not sure what's going on here.
I think that might be 50-50. Some of them might just happen, but the other, I like to teach. So I always feel like, especially on Donald Lawrence records,
yeah,
I want you to feel like you came into my office and laid on my couch, and I gave you some things to help you get through life. And I needed that to be clear for you so that you got some resolve on whatever it is you're going through. So a lot of it is definitely intentional, but then some of it, I think, because I've been doing it, it just happens, you know.
What's one facet of you as a man that you're saying, man, I really like this about myself. I wish people kind of knew more about me in this respect, or I wish people knew this about me that you would like to share or be willing to share?
I think that is probably something that it's hard for people to believe someone is like. I love seeing other people win. Maybe it's the producer in me, because producers, we created and we pushed out there and say, look how great you look. And we sit back and we are like a parent or something. There's a side of me that loves to see other people win. I could watch someone win and just sit in the back and be just as happy for them. That's just who I am. And I mean, I don't even feel like I should get brownie points for it. It's just who I am. I enjoy watching other people win. I always have.
So if we're looking at music, gospel, or just the scope of music, and we're looking at it as this big puzzle, and you're a puzzle piece, what would you hope people say when they're putting that Donald Lawrence piece on that puzzle about what you mean to music?
I would hope that people would say what I mean to music is I was that piece of the puzzle. When they had a bad day, they came to me for great wisdom, like my music, wisdom to get through. So somebody's music might have made them dance, made them happy. This, when they came to me, when they want wisdom, when they want the quotes, they came to me.
I love that. I love that. So of course we have Donald Lawrence Presents Power, a tribute to Twinkie Clark. It's an amazing album, guys. If you don't have it, if you haven't listened to it, you need to do that today. I'm telling you, I'm co-signing because I listened to it. But I know there's other things that you have going on in that are in the mix. So I want to make sure that people can keep up with you that way as well. What can we continue to expect from you, especially as we move through the rest of this year?
With the Buffalo Symphony Orchestra, Buffalo Philharmonic Orchestra next week, Birmingham Symphony Orchestra in November. I'm out on the McDonald's Inspirational Celebration Gospel Tour. I'm producing BB Winans live at the Apollo December 2nd. And what else? I may have Music and Arts Global. It's like an EP that might be coming like next year. And that gets me through the end of the year. And
are you sleeping? How much sleep are you getting tonight?
I don't know. I'm telling you, I was feeling that. I just got back from Sweden because I was doing some choral stuff there and a big concert there. And yesterday I said, I'm tired. So, but I kind of got my brain set up like by this date you'll be done. So I just I'm on an automatic pilot until I get to like December, I think around December 16th, and I'm done. So I'm trying to make it to there.
I love it. So as Donald Lawrence is trying to make it to there, he's got a lot of different things you can experience. We got tours, we got good music. So make sure you tap in. Also check out his social media because it's very fun. You also talked about how you like to see people win. I see you reposting other people's stuff all the time. So
always. Yeah,
I love your page. It's a good time. You got some jokes on there. So make sure you guys.
I'm more funny than people think I am. So I'm quietly kind of silly, quietly kind of silly. I would say I'm very quiet.
What's a quiet silly? You gotta let it out.
You just have to probably be in my space and I'll probably crack you up all the time. So my singers definitely think I'm a quiet comedian. So yeah, but definitely I love seeing people win, and I love when people do great art. Like when these younger people put out some great stuff, if I see it, I'm definitely gonna repost and say, you need to get this. They are onto something,
I love it. So how can people check you out on social media and check out those reposts?
Instagram at Donald Lawrence, Twitter at Donald Lawrence, Facebook, Donald Lawrence or Donald Lawrence Music. My website is donaldlawrence.com.
Donald Lawrence, I just want to thank you for all that you've vested, the time vested, the seed sown in this industry. At 37 years old, I can say it's an honor to be able to have experienced your music my entire life. I'm grateful
Thank you.
that God has gifted you to us, and I just wish you nothing but the best.
All right. Thank you very much.
It's just a thought. It's just a thought. Just my opinion. It's just a thought. It's just a thought. Get out your feelings. It's just a thought.